Starting the practice with checking in with the body, and we might say the body-mind, the body being the home of the mind, mind and body connected intimately through the nervous system. Mind and body kind of like mirrors to each other as well. What goes on in the mind is often, if not always, reflected in the body. A thought might lead to an emotion, which might lead to a speeding up of the heart, a feeling of a butterfly whirling around your stomach, the curling of your toes, the clenching of your hands, a softening or a tightening of our eyes. And sometimes, apparently, it's the body that responds first to an external stimulant. We might hear a sound, and before we're even aware fully with our thinking mind, we might have made a movement towards it or away from it with our body. A relaxation or a tightening may have happened, and then we interpret it. Then we think of a word that describes the sound. So there's all these little chains of events that happen through our senses in interaction with our whole body and mind. So by checking in with our body, we often really get quite a good sense of how we are. And sometimes what comes into awareness is that we feel quite disconnected from the body. We might feel a bit like a brain taxi, which is a phrase one of my teachers came up with, Francis Breers, where the head and the thoughts seem to be very much in the forefront and in charge, and the body follows. And at other times we can feel very embodied. We can feel a kind of, we could call it unity or oneness with our whole body. And we feel very alive, perhaps, from our head to our toes. And this is the original meaning of yoga. It means union. And it's also related to the word yoke, which is an instrument of balance. So noticing whether you feel in balance, whatever that means to you, whether you feel balanced, whether you feel kind of one in terms of body and mind. Perhaps you feel a little scattered, a bit like an interrupted TV signal where the image breaks up. And one moment this bit is in focus and the other moment something else. And whatever we notice and realize is going on, seeing if we can meet it with a sense of okayness. It is how it is. And then we can bring that awareness into the session today. And each moment we practice, things might change. Each moment in our life, things are changing. And I was reminded of this by a Facebook post from Brigit Anna McNeill, who's kind of a nature healer, herbalist, storyteller. And she wrote last night, "Things change, swirl and move, disintegrate and grow. We are always stepping into the unknown. The rock, the anchor, the constant is how we support ourselves in word, feeling and thought. When we have a loving, caring community within, stepping into the unknown, the ever-changing reality, is a completely different experience. When you bring safety into your heart, comfort into your bones, love into your darkness, your respect and care of yourself will hold you when all around is crumbling. So I'm quite interested into this idea of a loving, caring community within, finding comfort and safety within ourselves, and even if things are dark inside of us and difficult, finding some sense of self-care, respect for ourselves that can help us to support ourselves. And hopefully we do have support from each other as well, and maybe other friends and family in lockdown. But very helpful to develop some resilience within ourselves too. So we're less reliant on external circumstances and maybe a little bit more independent as well from, whatever comes next in a pandemic or some other crisis. We can be anchored in some way to a safe place inside ourselves. So that's going to be the inspiration today. And so we'll start with a practice connecting us with the ground. So we maybe can have a sense of being a bit like an anchor for ourselves, or having a body which is a bit like an anchor. So if you're currently sitting, I'd like to encourage you to lie down, if that's okay for you. And of course you can adapt to coming to sitting whenever needed. But if it's okay to lie down, coming to lying down with your knees bent, so you can feel the soles of your feet on the floor, and your arms a little distance away from your body. If you've got lots of space and it feels good, you could take them to shoulder height, not higher than your shoulders, so either shoulder height or a little lower, which helps to bring ease to the shoulders. And then connecting your mind to the weight of your body, to gravity holding your body. An anchor is quite heavy. If you've ever kind of seen an anchor or lowered an anchor, it's meant to connect very strongly to the bottom of the sea, to keep sometimes huge ships in place, no matter what the tides are doing, no matter what the weather is doing. Feeling the weight of your body a bit like an anchor. I'm going to join you on the floor for a moment and talk you through the next bit. So as we rest here, we can focus for a few moments on the out breath, bringing into our body mind the idea of letting go, of lowering our anchor down, finding the ground a little bit more. So breathing out, it might even be a sigh. We might feel the front of the chest, the rib cage dropping down, releasing down. Maybe different parts of your spine release a bit more on the exhale. And there might be a slight sense of rising again on the inhale. And then the next time we breathe out, maybe there's some other part of you that can release a bit more, that can let go to the ground. Checking in around your hips, perhaps. The pelvis, the sacrum at the base of your spine. And can you allow yourself to experience a sense of trust, trusting the ground? And you might like to roll your arms backwards and forwards a few times. So you can alternate feeling the ground with the palms of your hands and the backs of your hands, and the rolling happening with the arms being fully supported, so you're rolling rather than lifting and turning. And this can also enable us to feel our shoulder blades on the floor shifting and settling in different ways. And then bringing awareness to the back of your head and rolling your head from side to side. Feeling the shape of the back of your head as well as the weight of your head. The out breaths might still be able to help you to let go a bit more. Letting go of your head now. There's a posture I'll introduce a bit later, which is called anchor pose, which involves having the head on the floor. And once we get to that, if that doesn't feel very comfortable for you, you could come back to something like this pose. So especially when, we're feeling kind of maybe a bit burdened with all the stuff going on around us or inside us, too many thoughts, too many things to figure out, and we can't figure it out. It can be very anchoring and calming to get our head to the floor in some way, to literally rest our head. And then making those movements smaller and smaller so that we come back to a stillness. And perhaps the stillness is more of an outer thing just now. Maybe there's still a lot of thoughts in your mind, and that's okay. The body perhaps is becoming a bit more anchored, and on the surface, just like the metaphor of the boat and the anchor, the ship, the boat might be rolling around on the waves at the surface, and at the base, the anchor is holding everything safe in the midst of a storm. And then bringing your awareness to your sacral bone, the big bone at the base of your spine, at the back of your pelvis. And with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, you can see how wide your feet want to be. I'd encourage you to have them about hip width apart or wider. And just letting your knees shift from side to side a few inches, not too far. Just so that you can feel the weight of your body shift across your sacrum from side to side. So the sacrum is triangle shaped, and it's thinnest at the tailbone, and then there's 2 points at the back of the hips. So it's kind of like an upside down triangle with the down pointing angle at the tailbone, if that makes sense. So see if you can sense that shape. Shift around a bit. You can go from side to side, but also kind of tilt your pelvis a little towards your tailbone so you can feel perhaps a sense of the sacrum there. You can slightly roll your tailbone up, flattening your lower back, and still shift from side to side to feel the top part. And if it doesn't feel like a triangle, or you can't quite visualize that, that's okay. It's more about feeling this bone structure at the back of your pelvis. And it's kind of like an anchor for your spine. It anchors your spine to your pelvis, to your hips, and in return to your legs and your feet. It's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, bone in the body. I've read somewhere that it's the last bone to disintegrate after we die. Then we can explore our sacrum a bit more by bringing one knee first in towards our body. You can hold around the back of your leg or the front of your leg. And then again shifting by Gently circling just this one knee, first of all, small circles. Noticing how this moves your sacrum a little bit, maybe from side to side and top to bottom. You can circle in the other direction as well. And then see if you can extend your leg up, keeping your knee a little bit bent or even quite bent. See how it goes for you. So that this side of your sacrum, if it's your right leg, your right side, still feels pretty grounded. Sometimes when we try to straighten our leg too far, the sacrum comes up a bit, the back of the hip comes up a bit. So see if you can find a way to raise your foot and still stay anchored through your sacral bone. And then taking a little circle with your foot. So normally when we're standing, our foot is our anchor. Right now, the back of the body is our anchor. We can prepare the anchor of the foot by drawing a circle and feeling into the muscles of the leg. Maybe wriggling your toes. And paying attention to how your lower body feels is going to help your mind to feel more anchored, stable. And this ultimately, hopefully, is going to help us to develop this sense of safety within ourselves. Safety of the heart, or in the heart, as Brigit Anna McNeill called it. And then let's bring this foot back down and notice the sole of the foot coming back onto the ground, pausing just for a moment, really letting the foot reconnect with the earth. And then bringing your other knee in towards you. And noticing the back of your body, especially around the lower back, the sacral area. And draw some little circles with this knee. Really paying attention to the sensations around your sacrum. You can change direction any time. You might feel called to make the circles a bit bigger or smaller again. If you haven't been doing a lot of yoga or any yoga for a while, it might feel a little bit stiff, your body. It might feel a bit challenging, some of the things we do in class. You might notice, I haven't done this for a while. It's a bit more difficult than the last time I did it. Noticing that and trusting things will loosen up again and strengthen up again. And it might also feel really, really nice to come back to our bodies, to taking care of our bodies in this way. And then when you're ready, raising your foot, Checking that you're still anchored through the back of your hip. Drawing some circles with your toes, your foot, your ankle. Feeling into your lower body. Circling in both directions. And then bringing the foot back to the floor. You're noticing how it is to land again on the floor. Resting your hands either on your belly, your ribs, or on the ground. And paying attention again to your out breath. And then seeing how it is for you to straighten your legs. The alternative to straightening both legs is straightening one. There'll be an opportunity to swap over in a minute. And then squeezing, tightening, clenching our buttock muscles for a moment. And then waiting for an out breath to slowly and gradually release. So you could clench and tighten on an in-breath and hold your breath for a moment whilst you squeeze your buttock muscles as tightly as you can, and then slowly exhale and release. After 3, change your legs over if you're keeping one knee bent at the moment. We'll do 6 in total. Clench and release, and with each release you might feel that the back, especially the lower back, relaxes a bit more towards the floor. And you might also feel a little stretching and opening in the front of the hips. And then when you've done up to 6 of those, you can rest again for a moment, perhaps with your legs straight or your knees bent, depending on what's more comfortable right now for your back. And then bring the knees in towards the chest, both knees. Maybe have a little shuffle about from side to side. See if you can get a little bit more of your lower back onto the floor. And then with one hand on each knee, circling the knees, so we're taking them apart and bringing them back together. And Again, you can notice the sensations around your sacral area and your lower back and your hips. Notice how things move and shift. It's probably a bit of a rocking motion of the pelvis. And the sacral bone will be anchored to the floor, always at least in some place, as it gently rolls a little bit. And then taking the circles the other way. And bringing the knees back to the center, and you might like to take your hands around the backs of your knees or supporting your thighs in some way to see if you can take both feet up and still feel anchored through your sacrum. So again, you might not straighten your legs all the way. At least a bit of a bend might feel very helpful in terms of feeling anchored through the lower back. And then pointing the toes towards the ceiling and then down towards your face. Flexing the ankles in both directions. And feeling into the lower body, the lower legs, the calves, heels, soles of the feet, the toes. Excellent. And then we can bend our knees again. Feeling the position of your lower back again. And on an out breath, using your tummy muscles to support your body, to lower your feet slowly to the floor, a bit like lowering the anchors to anchors back to the floor gradually. And then the tummy can relax when they've landed again. And then bringing your feet and your knees together and your hands to your lower ribs with your elbows anchored to the floor, your head anchored to the floor, and then doing a gentle dynamic cobbler pose, which is actually a little bit like an anchor shape, I think. On an in-breath, taking your knees apart and taking your arms, extending your arms onto the floor, and on an in-breath, bringing your knees back together and your hands back to your lower ribs. So if you're not sure what this looks like, take a quick peek at the screen. Your elbows can stay anchored on the floor the whole time, so all you're doing is bending and straightening your elbows. And the outside of your feet will stay anchored to the floor as well. And you're taking your knees apart and back together. And your head and your sacrum are constantly connected to the floor, as well as are your shoulder blades. So breathing in, gently opening into cobbler pose, breathing out, bringing the knees back together and the hands back to the ribs. Aware of your core muscles as well as you exhale. You can think about drawing your navel towards the ground a little bit to help draw your legs back in. And when you next breathe in and open up, see if it would be comfortable to then stay there on the out breath into a cobbler pose. If it's uncomfortable on the hips, you could choose to put a cushion or something similar underneath your knees. Or again, you could bring one knee up and just let one leg release out to the side. Your arms out to the side with the palms up. And perhaps your eyes, if they've been closed, slightly open. In embodied yoga principles, we refer to this as open posture or lying down yes posture. Noticing how this feels, this openness. If it's physically uncomfortable, bring your knees back together at any time. If it feels a bit vulnerable as well, you can come in and out of the pose if it's vulnerable psychologically. If you're doing the one-sided version with one knee up and one knee down, changing over now. For the last few moments in the pose, we could contemplate, what do I want to be open towards today or this week? What might I want to say yes to? And then bringing both knees back to the center. And the knees back in towards you, giving your knees another hug. And then taking the little boat twist or little rock and roll, knees going in one direction, head rolling in the other direction, still with awareness of your head and your sacrum, although they're moving, also being your anchors in connection with the ground. And then coming back to the center, and once again connect to your core to slowly lower your feet to the floor, keeping your lower back in position, noticing what it's like when your feet land again. It can be a relaxation then of the core as you have more contact points with the ground again. And then inviting you to bring your hands to your heart, the center of your chest. Perhaps closing your eyes again for a moment to tune into how you are in this part of your body. Hands on heart can be a self-care gesture. Can feel soothing. Connecting to ourselves, if we can, with this care and respect that the quote talked about. And then in this position, your elbows are probably off the ground, so we can let them slide back to the ground and let our fingertips maybe still be towards or on the center of the chest. Thumbs might rest on the collarbones. We're still in touch with the upper chest, on or near the heart area, with the elbows anchored back to the floor. Making sure your feet are somewhere comfortable. You might want to have your feet wider than hip width and let your knees lean in to be able to relax a bit more around your sacrum and your thighs. And then drawing a small circle with your chin, so your head is still anchored. Again, you can be aware of your exhale as a way to relax around the breastbone. This movement can help to release your neck. And then going the other way as well. Can you soften a bit more around your shoulders? Notice how your neck is today. And then bringing your head back to the center. And stretch your arms up towards the ceiling for a moment with the palms flat, as if you're pushing the ceiling away from you. If it was a very low ceiling, could you flatten your palms against it, that kind of position? Noticing the strength in your arms. And then taking your wrists, your hands the other way, so your fingers point forwards and your palms are horizontal, parallel to the floor and the ceiling, but pointing the other way. Doing that a couple of times, so flexing and extending the wrists in both directions, feeling into the arms, wrists, hands, shoulders. Lovely. And then circling the wrists in figures of 8 and letting your fingers join in as well. And wriggle your fingers a little bit, wriggle your hands. Taking the figures of 8 in the other direction as well. And then shaking the hands out a bit. Letting your shoulder blades be anchored to the floor, so helps to bend the elbows a little. And then seeing if it's comfortable to interlace your fingers and rest your head in your hands with your thumbs on or near the base of your skull, so you can maybe feel the top of your neck, the top of your spine, where it meets your skull. Creating a cradle, a little anchor, as it were, for your head. Again, you could move your head around a little bit in that cradle of your hands. Feeling the bone structure of the back of your head. And then we can contemplate doing a few little mini sit-ups for core strength. So before we start, I'd like you to really feel the position of your shoulder blades, your shoulders, your arms. Is it comfortable? Do you need to have your elbows off the ground, or can they be on the ground? The position of your feet, you might want to slightly shift intuitively, knowing it would be more comfortable if they were in a different spot. And feeling your sacrum, again, you could flatten and arch your lower back a couple of times. And then when you're ready, on an exhale, flattening your lower back towards the floor, bringing your elbows up towards your head, and bring your head towards your knees, curling up, and breathing in, slowly moving back to your starting position. And exhale, rest and totally relax in that position. Inhale, slightly arching your lower back, feeling your sacrum. Exhale, flattening and curling up. Inhale, coming back down. Exhale, relax towards the floor, feeling your anchors. Inhale, arch. Exhale, flatten the lower back and curl up. And continuing with the pace of your own breathing. The main thing is to listen to your body and noticing that it's helpful to curl up on the exhale, the most natural part of the breathing cycle, to encourage your core to contract and to completely relax, at least for a moment when you come back down, so we can go through the full range of contract and release. This is really helpful for building strength and flexibility. And then when you're getting tired, you can rest some more. You can stop at any time. If you feel strong, it feels helpful, you can do up to 3 more. When you've done 3 more, you're ready to rest. And taking a rest in a comfortable lying down position, whatever that is for you. Noticing how your body is, your body-mind. And then again, bringing your awareness to your heart. You could bring your hands again to your heart for a moment if that feels helpful, if that feels soothing. It's a gesture you can come back to, you can use as an anchoring practice, anchoring in the present moment, soothing your heart. And the next posture I'd like to do is bridge pose from the perspective both of anchoring and safe, finding a safe place in the heart. So we can take our arms away from the chest, out to the side. Again, an anchor shape for you might be to have your hands at about hip level or a little wider towards shoulder level. So it encourages a bit of a feeling of openness at the chest, especially when we start to come up into bridge. And then aware of our feet on the ground, heels, balls of the feet, toes. And then we can keep this small if we need to or want to for whatever reason. We could just press the feet into the floor, feel the buttock muscles contract, and then relax again. And there might just be a little shift around the ribs and the chest, and that's okay. Or after a few of these movements, you might feel called to go up a little higher, to start to shift in towards a backward bend, an extension of the spine, an opening at the front of the ribs. Keeping sight, sense of really, a felt sense of your anchoredness through your feet, your shoulder blades, your arms, and your head. You might want to start the journey up on an out breath. Breathe in at the top. Breathe out to come back down. Relax before you start again. In your bridge pose, within the movement, can you kind of connect to the idea of there being an anchor, a sense of being anchored, something constant, something steady like a rock. Can there be comfort from the support of the bones of your feet, your shin bones, your shoulder blade bones, the bones of your spine as they roll up and down. When you next come down, once more bringing your knees in towards your chest, you might like to extend your legs up towards the ceiling, one by one or both at the same time, to stretch the hamstrings that have been contracting in bridge. And perhaps another rock from side to side. And rolling onto one side, taking a breath or two there. Feeling the anchorage of the side of your body. The hip you're resting on, the side of your ribs you're resting on. And then coming to kneeling, upright kneeling. And I'll just demonstrate this anchor pose that you might like to try. You could always come back to lying on your back. Might like a padding for your knees. Bit of padding for your knees. Another alternative as well would be child pose. So forehead on the ground. So anchor pose is like a mini inversion, but it's really a lot easier than any kind of headstands. So for anchor pose, we create a bit of a triangle of our elbows and our hands on the floor. Again, that triangle shape is very, very steadying. Our fingers can partly interlace and overlap. And then you could just put your forehead on the ground here. So you might just want to do this, rest your forehead here, so it's kind of a high child pose. Or you could roll a bit further onto the top of your head. So then there's a bit more weight on your head. There's a lot of weight through my elbows as well, so I could actually lift my head off the ground by pressing down through my elbows. If you've got any neck issues, just go for child pose. Maybe roll up and down a little. The main thing really to help us to connect to this idea of anchoring is to be able to rest our head on the floor, not necessarily to take any weight through the head. So do be super gentle. If you noticed earlier your neck isn't feeling that great today. And also some of us have kind of a relatively long neck and short upper arms. So that would change how you were able to do this as well, how comfortable you'd be able to do this. Make sure you're taking weight through your arms and your elbows, that they are part of your anchor pose. And can you get to a place where it feels quite comfortable and relatively relaxing to place the weight of your head on the floor? Lovely. And then coming back to a child pose, if child pose is comfortable for you. And then a cat pose to release and relax our head a bit more, letting the head drop down. Cat pose. Downward dog could be an option. So you can let your head just relax down. And then coming back to kneeling or upright kneeling to take our heads back up. Release our arms and shoulders. A little bit of shaking out. Circling our wrists. And then coming up to standing. So if our feet hip width apart, anchoring through the feet, feeling the contact points with the floor. Mountain pose or attentive standing. In embodied yoga principles, being a stand. In lots of ways this time of year, winter, as well as this moment in lockdown, can be very much like standing still, or one step forwards, two steps back, pausing, resting, maybe being more tired than we are at other times. And noticing where we stand. Physically, mentally. Feeling our balance. And when to be to close our eyes. This can affect our balance and kind of take us to this place of being in the unknown. Maybe just close your eyes briefly if it's too much. Open them again, close them again. And we can bring a little bit more strength into our standing, simply by drawing the arms down. My fingertips are quite pointed. Let's go this way around. Okay, really pointing down and reaching down, I could call it. And in this reaching down, I can feel strength building in my shoulders, and I can feel something in my core, my lower belly lifting up, my core engaging, activating this way of standing. Can you do that and still breathe? And so this is taking a stronger stand. And then we can relax again, find ease in our standing. And both postures are quite anchored, and one is just kind of resting on the anchor of the feet, and the other one is almost pulling up from the feet. So trying that once more, reaching down with the hands, noticing the difference, the core engaging. And then letting that go again. Perhaps taking your feet a little bit wider and having a little bit of a jiggle, shift from side to side, softening the knees. And then bringing the hands back to the heart. Maybe shifting your feet again. Just going to step back a bit so you can see my whole body. Seeing if you can feel a sense of rock-likeness, being your own rock, being your own anchor, finding safety in your heart, being your own community. And then we can take a step forwards with one foot. Take our hands forwards. So I'm stepping forwards with my left foot. It might look like my right, and my left hand is ahead. So same side, hand ahead and the other hand behind, entering in pose, variation of warrior. Coming back, so we can do this a few times, just getting our balance, stepping forwards and coming back to the heart, and then thinking, how do I want to now move shortly into the rest of my day, into the rest of my week. From this place of being anchored, having a sense of trust maybe in my body, in myself, in my core resilience, physically and mentally. Can I take some of that into the week, into the day? How might this serve you? And in return, help you to serve others if that's relevant. And then when you next step back to your standing posture, taking a deep breath with hands on the heart, and then relaxing our arms, And coming to sitting or lying down for a closing meditation and relaxation of the body. So it's a bit of both. So whichever posture is most comfy for you for that. So as you get settled, I'll read the quote again. Things change, swirl and move, disintegrate and grow. We are always stepping into the unknown. The rock, the anchor, the constant is how we support ourselves in word, feeling and thought. When we have a loving, caring community within, stepping into the unknown, the ever-changing reality, is a completely different experience. When you bring safety into your heart, comfort into your bones, love into your darkness, your respect and care of yourself will hold you when all around is crumbling. So now as you sit or lie, once again, first bringing your attention to the earth beneath you, being the rock underneath us, the planet. And the parts of your body that are touching this ground, being your anchors, whether that's your sitting bones or your shoulder blades, the back of your head. As you breathe out, letting those parts of you really anchor themselves to the rock of the earth. And knowing the earth and gravity are pretty constant. Sometimes we stand and slide on mud and may have experienced earthquakes. Mostly this is constant, pretty reliable. And we can sense that in our bones. So is there any way in your posture you can find a little more comfort through your bones? Through the position of body parts, by letting your bones rest on the ground in a certain way or on a cushion or against the wall. And within that support, that anchoring, Feeling the constant flow of your breathing. And being aware of the sense of the inside of you, whatever that feels like. It might be a felt sense of a kind of inner space, which is maybe dense or spacious or dark or light. May feel like very unknown, like you know it's there inside your skin. And that's about all you know, or maybe there's a more detailed or imagined sense of it. And however it feels, that inside space of you, in words, and in feeling and in thought, we can bring care to it. Care or loving kindness, friendliness. As you breathe in, seeing if you can breathe this intention of friendliness, intention of caring for yourself into your being, into your body mind. And it may help to silently say words or whisper or say out loud to yourself something like, may I be kind to myself. On the in-breath, breathing that in. Kindness, may I be kind to myself. Breathing out, relaxing into it, can you find an embodied sense of comfort by relaxing into this wish for yourself. May I be kind, may I care, may I respect myself. And if that feels a little strange, remembering that we'd probably find it quite easy to have this kind of wish or hope for our loved ones. And it can feel very unusual, a little confronting perhaps, to wish this for ourselves. Yet if we can provide this for ourselves, this can also help the people around us a great deal. Spend another minute or so breathing in whatever qualities or attributes you would like to offer yourself or develop within yourself. And breathing out, relaxing into your own presence, into your own being, into the comfort of your bones, into the safety of your heart. And then concluding again with a wish or an intention for taking this into the rest of your day or your week, for it to benefit you today and this week.